Hi everyone, I'm the plant propagator and welcome to my channel. It is mid-February here in Southwest Florida. 77 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 25 degrees Celsius. Just a beautiful day. I haven't told you that in a while. This is for Keith in Iowa because he said he likes hearing me say that. Anyway, what I want to do is give you an update on a few things that I've shown you previously. So I want to talk with you a little bit more about Burlap Phals that I introduced you to a few months ago, give you an update on how the Burlap Phals are doing mounted on my tree. And I also want to give you a little bit of an update of the seedlings that I brought home from the laboratory a few weeks ago. Everything is just doing really well. Let's start off with the Burlap Phals. So I have Burlap Phals. That's what I started with, but I also introduced Burlap Dens, dendrobiums, and I'll show you some of those and how they're doing. And then I'm also working now on Burlap cats, so cattleyas. Those aren't quite far enough along. I'm not going to share any of those with you, and I'm going to change my approach a little bit on the Burlap cats. What I did with the cats is I placed the cattleyas on burlap that were not really the best ones. It was the leftover ones, and I'm going to switch that up a little bit. I've got so many cats that I'm going to start putting the better cattleyas on burlap and then use those to mount those onto the trees. All right, let's take a look at this. So I've got a Burlap Phal right here, Phalaenopsis. I've actually got 3 of them on this piece of burlap. I've got one down here, and what I'm going to do is show you what these things look like a little closer. I also have a Burlap Phal on this tree right here that is more in direct sun, and then I've got my final one that I'm going to share with you is a Burlap Phal that's on the tree in my front yard that gets a lot of sun. So we're going to take a look at those, and then I'm going to move and show you the Burlap Dens afterwards, and then finally the seedlings. So taking a look at this one, I'll get a close-up of this, but this is doing quite well. This Phal has roots growing up here and around the tree here, down. It's, the roots, they're probably, yikes, that one's all the way there. They're probably about, I guess 6, 7, 8 inches from the plant. The plants themselves aren't really growing that much, but just because of the root growth, and again, I judge the success of my orchid growth by the amount of roots that I have growing. And these things are really doing well. They're not all the way around the tree, but I think they'll be there pretty soon. The one on the that's further down on the tree here, these are doing better. I don't know why. Maybe there's more water down where they are. And these are the roots on these phals are probably about 10 inches away from the plants, and the plants look a little bit better as well. So they're doing well. Again, what I do is I take the burlap and I deflask directly onto the burlap, and I've got a video that I showed you how I did this, and I've got another video where I showed you how I mounted them, and I think I've showed how I mounted this specific group of plants right here. And they've taken off. They're doing well. I have attached them with the rubber bands. The rubber bands, as you can see, are gone. I don't need them anymore really on any of these. So they've adapted, they've grown well, and they're not going to bloom this year. So most of my Phalaenopsis orchids are putting on bloom spikes right now. So, and these are kind of small, so these aren't going to bloom next year, but I would imagine, this year, but I would imagine next year they're going to bloom. They'll get bigger and they'll probably bloom. They just really like being in this location. I should also share that I shared some of the Burlap Phals that I have with my colleagues, and I've got one colleague that just, and I took a look at her plants maybe about a month ago, and they just got huge. So they're growing in just a perfect place for for them, and they probably about doubled or tripled in size. The thing is, I started out with big ones for her. I'm not going to take the small ones anymore, but I'll take the big ones, and they got just even bigger, and we mounted them on her trees, and they just took off. I don't think hers are blooming this year, but I'm sure they're going to bloom next year. So this is going really well. What I'm going to do is get behind the camera, show you some of these in a little bit more detail, and then I also want to share with you the burlap dendrobiums and how they're doing. And again, those are doing pretty well also. Okay, so let me get behind the camera and show you some stuff in more detail. Okay, this is the phal, or the group of phals that are on the front side of the tree, and as you can maybe tell, this is getting a little bit too much light. There's a little bit of root growth here, not as much as on the back of the tree, and they're doing okay. But yeah, see, there's some roots coming out of there that I think you can see, but not doing great, but it's okay. What I'm going to do is show you one more burlap phal, and then we'll take a look at the burlap dens. Okay, this is the last group of burlap phals that I wanted to share with you. And maybe you can tell from the dark coloration on the leaves here that this gets way too much sun. But look at the root growth on this guy, or in these. I don't know. There's 2 or 3. I guess there's 3 in there, but they're not that big, and they're a little. I think they're a little sun stressed. I've still got the rubber bands holding them in place. I can remove that. Look at the good root growth that you're seeing right here and here. Also on the bottom, right there's good root growth. So all the way on here, good root growth. So again, that's an indicator of how the plants are doing. Probably a little bit of a too much of a sunny location for this, but it's doing okay. So we'll see how it goes. All right, let's move on to the burlap dens. Okay, here's the first set of burlap dens, and I've got 3 of them on this piece of burlap, and you can tell maybe that from the rubber bands, I still have them holding onto the tree. I don't think they need to. The root system on these are a little bit more fibrous, but it does look, you can see that thin root right there in the middle of the screen, a few more there. They do look like they've attached, and if you look down at the base of this plant in the middle, there should be, looks like another cane growing out. So there are some additional growth coming out. It looks okay. It's on the back side of the tree, so it doesn't get a whole lot of sun, and it gets irrigated, so it's doing pretty well. This group is doing pretty well. And then just really close, and this is hard to get to because it just is. So these are another group of burlap dens that are growing on this tree, and you can see there's some good growth, again, some additional canes that are growing out. I think this is, as far as where this came from, I'm pretty sure this is a hybrid that I made with Wulang. But there's a lot of new growth coming out. I don't know how long it's going to be till this thing flowers. It's still a small plant compared to the parents, but you can see, the roots that are growing out, that are attaching. I really can't see what's going on over here, but they look okay. So they're doing pretty well. So good success with these burlap dens. Okay, and we're back, and this is the last thing that I want to share with you, and these are seedlings that I brought home from there's a mixture of older ones, I think, in this tray here, but these are all newer ones that I brought home from the laboratory maybe around 3 weeks ago, and I think what you can see is how well these guys are all doing. So there's a mix of cattleyas, and I mean, even those big ones, the leaves are turning a little yellow because they were in the laboratory under just fluorescent light, actually LED lights, and brought them home, and I put them here, and they get maybe a little bit too much sun, even though I try to keep in a pretty shady condition. But you got to get them out, and you got to expose them. So there's some dens in the back right there. And there's some dens, but as we move along, that huge one right there is a right in the middle. That's a cattleya. But there's, and look at, I mean, some of these are pretty, you know, pretty nice, where you're getting pretty good growth on these things, you know, just even all the way at the end. But here's one of my favorites. I got to show you. I hope I can keep this one alive right here. So this one has some really unusual spotting, and and look at the nice roots on there. None of the siblings of this plant have the same spotting. So I'm really excited to see what that's going to do. And here in the pot there's some that's a palm fruit. And that's a problem where I've got these underneath the palm trees, and then the palm fruits fall out of the tree. I should remove them, I guess. And some of the plants get damaged a little bit. But these these are doing really well, and I'm pretty happy with them. Again, I think the trick is to get these guys big before they get out of culture. And then also, one of the things I did differently with this batch is I kept them in the tubs under very high humidity for way longer than I have in the past. So I kept these guys in the tubs for 2 to 3 months. And then this is the first batch of seedlings that I did a mycorrhizal treatment on. So that may or may not help. The problem is I'm doing too many things. I didn't do really anything good side by side, just because I'm small scale here. And anyway, these are looking good. Wanted to give you an update on that. Okay, that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed my video. If you did and you want to keep on seeing them, it would help me out. If you can click on like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you're not already a subscriber. All right, that's all I have for today. Again, I hope you enjoyed it, and happy propagating.